Welcome to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. A reminder, we're streaming live on Sportsnet's YouTube channel and airing live on Sportsnet 360 Monday to Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. Make sure you find the Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, and please rate and review our show. I'm your host, William Liu. No Alex Wong today because, we have two very, very special interviews that we were able to get to, one of which we recorded on Friday after our episode with Gary Trent Sr., which was still great. If you haven't checked it out, go make sure you check that out. Okay, go check out Gary Trent Sr. anytime he's on the show. Great guest. And then we did another interview on Sunday, going down to practice to catch up with the Raptors, as we always do. But in between that, there was a very annoying game against the Sixers where hopefully we can just move past it by now. It was one of those inexplicable losses that do lead to some angry reaction podcasts, which I'm sure that other people have also tuned in and digested by now. But yeah, hopefully that was just a one-off, and we know that was an uncharacteristic performance for the Raptors. And they have a big game against Atlanta tonight. Atlanta's pretty tough, and it might be even tougher now that Fred is questionable with lower back problems. But look, we can get to that in a second. But first off, I wanted to get to our interview with newly hired Raptors 905 head coach Eric Khoury. The 905 season starts this weekend, so we thought it'd be a great time to chat with Coach Khoury. Eric has been in the Raptors organization for almost a decade, and his path to head coaching is really, really unique, and we're going to cover that in this interview. So without further ado, here is Raptors 905 head coach Eric Khoury. All right, joining us on the Raptors Show is 905 head coach Eric Khoury. Eric, first off, congratulations. I'm sure you heard this from like hundreds of people so far, but I mean, youngest head coach from the Raptors. And of course, you're about to start a whole new season with the 905. So congrats, Eric.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. And thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, thanks for making time. And listen, I've been trying to do a lot of background research on you. There hasn't been that much published, but there is a great piece by Blake Murphy, which I think everyone who has looked into you has probably already seen. But you've also done a pair of podcasts, and I thought that one of the podcasts that you did with, I believe, your former U of T engineering professor Chris Yip, that chat was incredible. You guys got into so many nitty gritty things about analytics, and that's kind of where I wanted to start with you in terms of your background. Like, how did you get to this position?
I definitely took a different path, I guess, than most. I started as an intern with the Raptors right when I was finishing my master's. And in my master's, I was using this technology for particle tracking, and the league put in all the player tracking technology. And I mean, very different. One's like physics, one's basketball, but the overall technology was very similar. So that's kind of how I made my start. I saw that. I was really interested in it. So I reached out via Twitter to somebody who was running part of the analytics department back then. They were like consulting for the Raptors. Tweets turned into emails turned to coffee into an internship. And that's kind of how I got started with the Raptors. But that was on the management side, doing analytics. And then I would work with the coaching staff here and there to try and provide some support. And I'd say each year I probably worked more and more with the coaching staff until eventually in 2017, I joined Coach Casey's staff full-time, and then kind of just stuck around since then. When Coach Nurse took over, I joined his staff, spent a couple years with 905 just in a purely assistant role, no analytics. Came back to the Raptors in a purely assistant role, and then here I am today, back with the 905.
Yeah, and listen, we're going to talk a lot more about your analytics portion as well, the background there. Honestly, some of the conversations you were having was just like mind-blowing in terms of the things that you guys were studying, and obviously very complex stuff. But let's focus on the coaching aspect first, right? Because I'm curious, like, when did that itch to start coaching sort of begin for you? What did you find rewarding about it? And for yourself, like, when did you realize that, hey, this is a realistic path for me, that for one day I could become a 905 head coach and, eventually down the line, an NBA head coach, hopefully in the future?
Yeah. It's interesting. The part that drew me to coaching in the first place is probably one of the parts now that I'm doing it is most like a job, you know what I mean? Not the part that I'm most interested in. So back when I was providing support to the coaching staff, I mean, I knew basketball, but I didn't know basketball anywhere near the level of like NBA assistant coach knowing basketball.
Sure. Yeah.
So they would ask, hey, can you, I know you're tracking pick and rolls, but can you track it by how the defense is covering it? So that way we can look at different efficiencies. And I was like, okay, like over and under. And they're like, no, like every type of pick and roll coverage.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know what they all are. So I'd sit with the assistant coaches at the time. There's one coach, Tommy Sterner, who was so valuable
TV
this
Tom.
time. Yeah, of course. Come on.
Yeah.
He was like unbelievably kind. And he would, any question I had, he would take the time to answer. And he would explain all the different coverages. Here's drop coverage. Here's switch. Here's blitz. Here's show. Here's corral, whatever. And he would go on and on and on. And he would explain them all to me. So I mean, to understand it well enough to be able to teach a computer to recognize it, you have to really understand it. So I would spend a lot of time with them. And as I did that, I was like, well, if they're going to drop, why wouldn't you just pop the big? He's like, well, yeah, that's usually the counter. And if they're going to show, why wouldn't you just, and we'd go on and back and forth and kind of that chess game of it, of the counters and all that. That's what initially drew me to the coaching side. So as I would kind of write the code to analyze it, I'd also be thinking, what would you do as a counter? And then if they did that, what would you do next? And the back and forth, the dance of it, really, I found really interesting. So that's what drew me to it in the first place. And then when I finally joined Coach Casey's staff, and you see that that's like, I don't know, such a small part of it. That's when you start to realize how much there goes into coaching and how many decisions the coaches have to make nonstop. And that part was really interesting to me. It's not one decision that who knows if it'll pan out the right way. Like you draft a player and he turns out to be a star. Was it, well, it was a great development system. Was the player really good? Was it just a great scout and so on? You don't know. But on the coaching side, you're making thousands of decisions every day kind of thing. And you make enough of the right decisions in the long run, things pan out the right way.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I think that's something that most people wouldn't understand about the coaching, right? Because I think even, on the media side of things, what we look at so much is like the end product, and then we just judge based on the result, right? But of course, as coaches, you have to look at it as a process-oriented view, and we also focus so much on the tactics. And we look at, well, this play could be run better, or you might want to run this play and that play. But as you mentioned, that's the tip of the iceberg. Like so much of coaching is a people business, understanding how to deal with a lot of young professionals who are trying to make it to their dream, trying to provide for the families, young players who are obviously trying to learn the game as well and mold. And you're going to get that challenge more than anybody. In the G League, it's I think maybe even more hectic than being an NBA head coach.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the really important part for anyone in a leadership position or coaching position is, I think, to understand what all the individual goals are, right? If you don't know what an individual's goals are and you're just trying to make them do something they don't necessarily want to do, there's going to be so much pushback, right? You're never going to have any success. If you can find out there's 10 G League players and a couple two ways, you talk to the 12 guys and say, what are your goals? How do you want to get there? And then as a coach and as staff, you try and think, how can I meld these 12 individual goals to what's best for the team and hit off as many of those people's goals as possible? So that way everyone's growing together. Everyone's got like working towards something that they think is worth working towards. Then you'll have the most success. If you break it off and just try and dictate what's going to happen, I don't think it's going to work. And if you don't set any goals for anybody and just kind of let everybody do their own individualistic thing, it won't work either.
Yeah, that approach you're mentioning there kind of reminds me of, Nick Nurse wrote a book, right? Or there's a biography for Nick Nurse, and he covered sort of his approach in the NBA, and a lot of it right now is sort of just like, how do we get you to increase your value, right? Like, 100%. What are the skills we need you to do? What's the role that we need to get for you? And sometimes that requires having, difficult conversations. I think in the book, he describes an unnamed former first-round pick who came to the Raptors, and he said, look, the reason you haven't really clicked in the NBA is because we needed you to do this, this, and this, and you're not really doing these kind of things. So it's all about sort of communicating and getting the players to sort of improve their value. And I think obviously in the G League level, that's got to be, that exact same approach. And, when you've worked with these coaches, whether it's Coach Casey, whether it's Nick Nurse, whether it's Pat Mutombo, what are some of the things that you've taken from the coaches that you worked under so far in your young career?
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough, like you said, to work with some great coaches. So Coach Casey, Coach Nurse, Coach Jama, Coach Pat, like those are 4 very different coaches who are all awesome coaches. So you steal, it's no different than when you're scouting an opponent or anything like that. You steal everything you think is going to work. And that kind of molds your coaching path. So you know what to take. So say Coach Casey, he does an unbelievable job at never getting too high, never getting too low, and keeping a steady lens and knowing where the team's at and knowing where the team should be going. I mean, Coach Nurse is one of the most creative minds there is, period. But he's also such a good leader. And I mean, I was fortunate enough to see him work as an assistant and work with him as an assistant with the Raptors and see him make that transition to head coach.
Right.
And how he handled that was unbelievable. And it made a lot of sense. And that's something, having previously been a 905 assistant and now being in the head seat, I stole a lot of how he did that, because he did such a great job of it. And to see that among many other things, something I would take from him.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Gemma, I mean, like, there's no better dude, right? So it didn't matter if it's like a snowy Tuesday in the middle of the winter.
Yeah.
He had a smile on his face, and he would always say, "What a beautiful sunny day outside." Like, we had a team slogan of sunny days. And like, there were a lot of not sunny days, but he made them feel like sunny days. And that's something I'm trying to take from him. But I mean, that's like trying to take Steph Curry's jump shot. It's probably not going to happen, but hey, at least you can
try.
you know what the best possible situation is, and he's the best possible. And then Coach Pat I mean, he was so good for my development as a coach. He helped me so much. And I never lost sight of that. And that's something I try and really focus on my coaching staff as well, is how to help everybody grow. So like you said, those are 4 great coaches, not to mention all the assistants I've worked with over the years who are awesome as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, well, I mean, 2 things. Number one, it really sort of like confirms that feeling of family that the Raptors really, from top down, whether it's 905 or the big club or anything like that, like there is just this sense of family. The organization take cares of each other, and guys get jobs either with the Raptors ideally or even elsewhere, right? There's a very proven track record of 905 head coaches moving on, doing great things across the board. And I think, you know, for yourself too, it's just I was talking to someone about this, where, you know, I was asking like, hey, you know, I want to interview Eric. What should I ask him? And I think he was just like asking about like some of the coaches who have taken that route from jumping in first at the analytics portion, but then making it as a head coach. Like, and I was trying to think about it myself. Like, who are some other coaches who have taken that sort of approach and then made it to a head coaching position? And honestly, Eric, I think I'm just asking you out of curiosity. Like, do you know other coaches who have had similar paths to you? And could that somehow inform your roadmap to where you ultimately want to go in your career?
There's some coaches now who, I would say a lot of teams now do have somebody on the bench who is kind of in a dual role, like analytics and coaching. I'm not positive. I mean, no one in the NBA started in analytics, put it that way. I'm not sure if anyone in the G League started in analytics in a head coaching position either.
So you're a trailblazer then?
I wouldn't go that far.
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe in other sports that would be interesting. I'm sure in baseball there's been a couple of situations like that. I mean, they're so analytics heavy, but I haven't done my research on that one. So, I mean, is that the end goal for sure? Mm-hmm. But I know I'm not going to say the NBA is a pure meritocracy, but it is pretty good at finding whoever they think is best for the job. Yep. So my goal is just to keep getting better, and if I keep getting better, hopefully it gives me a better chance to do that. But I'm not. That's not like I'm not tailoring my day to that. I'm tailoring my day to get better as a coach and see where it ends up.
Yeah, that's a great approach. And I think the other thing too is, you know, obviously every interview that gets done with you talks about analytics, and this will be no different, by the way. We will get to that. But I think it's also, you know, people on the outside think a little bit too binarily, right? Like, it's not just like you're the numbers guy, you're the workout guy, you're the X's and O's guy. Like, you have to be every guy when you're the head coach, right? And I think that for you, in you know, in starting out this challenge, you have taken a lot of experience so far in your young career. Like, you've seen both sides of it, and I think the idea is sort of like, you know, can the Raptors and obviously 905, can they marry those two ideas together and help you sort of transit some of those things onto the floor, but also in your own personal career development, which I think is really cool. I think it shows like a really innovative approach, and also at the same time, like, you know, I'm sure you have shown that you have the ability to lead a team, and that's why they've given you this position. So, I mean, looking ahead to this season, right? The 905, always successful, always a great product. Highly recommend people to just check out more games, period. First off, it's much more accessible of a price point for most families to go see a professional basketball game in the GTA region. It's the energy is great and the product is great. And I'm just curious, Coach, like, what are you most excited about with this roster that you have for this upcoming season, and sort of what you hope to accomplish?
Yeah, it's a super fun team. So it will be, like you said, it's a great atmosphere to watch games. And the gap between some of the NBA guys who might be not getting a ton of minutes, and the bench guys and the top players in the G League is minimal, if not non-existent. Like there are some really high-level players in the G League, and I mean, let's see once we start playing the games, but I would put our roster up against anyone's. It's a heck of a team this year, so I'm really excited for that. We've got like electric point guard play. We've got great bigs. We've got tons of wings, just because we're copying the Raptors style as well. You got to have the wings.
Got to have at least 15 wings on a team at any time.
Exactly. Yeah. So we got a fun squad, and the goal as a coaching staff, we've talked about it a lot, is to put together a fun style of play as well. You're going to get the most buy-in if players are playing in a structure that's fun to play in, as opposed to a very like drag it out, slow paced offense, something like that. So we're going to have a fun style of play too. So it should be a really fun team to watch, and a really successful team too.
Yeah. And, one thing I've always been curious about is like, this is a challenge that I feel like very few NBA head coaches will have to face, but for G League head coaches, when the Raptors tell you like, hey, maybe it's the morning of, they're like, hey, we're just going to need Justin Champagnie is going to come down for a game, or in this season, Ron Harper Jr. is going to come down with you guys, or Jeff Downs is going to come down, or hey, Christian Koloko, he hasn't been playing a lot because the Raptors bigs are very healthy right now. He's not getting a lot of chances. Maybe we want to get him down to get 30 minutes of run with you guys. How do you prepare for that? Because that's going to happen quite a bit.
For sure. And that's something you always got to keep in mind. And we've talked with some of the players already. It can be really frustrating for a G League player at times. Like you might have just come off the best game of your season. You played 35 minutes, like your most productive game to date. All of a sudden, the Raptors assign both two ways and a couple of assignment guys, and now you're playing spot minutes, right? Like it's tricky. So that's one of the big challenges as a coach and as a coaching staff, is to keep everyone happy when it comes to that. But what you have to keep in mind is like this, that's what the purpose of the 905 is, right? Is to help the parent club. So in terms of style of play, we know it's super important to keep it spot on with the Raptors. We don't want an assignment guy or a two-way guy having to learn two different playbooks or learn two different defensive philosophies or anything like that. We know it's important to play the same way, and we're going to play the same way. So that way it makes it a seamless transition back and forth. And that way, when the two ways come play, the reps are useful for them. They'll come back to the Raptors as a player who can like contribute sooner than had they not come and played with us. So is it a challenge? For sure, but it's a good challenge to have.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I think too, it's really important that you mentioned from the player's perspective, right? Because from the G League player's perspective, like absolutely, like there are certain times in life where you won't be the priority, right? But at the same time, when you function as part of a team, you look for people who can understand how to contribute towards the team goal, right? And I think that that's a very important aspect when it comes to player acquisition. And I think from the Raptors perspective, I think a lot of fans probably want to know how much, or what is the plan right now for some of the guys in terms of like how much will a guy like Christian Koloko be playing with you guys, or how much will be Jeff and Ron on the two ways? How much time will they be spending with you guys? Is there a long-term plan for that already in place, or is it more like we'll see how the season goes kind of thing?
For sure. I mean, there's always a plan, but it's always contingent on everything that happens up with the parent club, right? So I think Coach Nurse last week or a couple of weeks ago had mentioned that it would be good for Christian to get 30 minutes, 35 minutes of run every once in a while, just to get out, stretch his legs kind of thing. So if it makes sense where both teams are in town and they have an off day and we're playing, then yeah, of course, I'm sure they'd prefer Christian to come get some run. But at the same time, a lot of that's contingent on, we don't want to get him playing too many minutes back and forth and really tire him out. So it all depends on the health of the big club and the rotations and all that jazz. So that makes a lot of sense. As for the two ways, I mean, you can see it in the roster. They're both at positions that have a lot of players already on the team, right?
Right.
There's quite a few point guards, and especially if you're like the way Pascal's playing and Scotty's playing, where they can have the ball in their hands, that they're point guards at the end of the day, right? So, and then we already joked about the number of wings, but there's a fair amount of wings. So, I'm sure there is a big plan for it. 100%, there is a big plan. It's all about where they get the best development. So I think hopefully a bit of time with 905 and a bit of time with the Raptors.
Yeah, and we've seen that formula work really well. Like, I mean, last season, I remember there were games or weeks where Delano would have like a back-to-back.
Yeah.
Like go to Mississauga, go to practice, go to the Raptors practice, go to the Raptor game, and it was like sometimes they play. I think one time it was like not if I played at 11, and I think he played again at 7. So, but it's good though for young guys. I'm sure they'd love that opportunity, right? Get as many reps in as possible, get the minutes, get an opportunity to showcase what you can do, and those are all data points that the coaching staff will eventually take into their decision making when they ultimately choose in terms of who they play and sort of like the front office of who they end up paying at the end of the day. And I was thinking more about your path and obviously going into the league through the analytics portion. I feel like most people who come in the league through analytics like end up in the front office. So I'm curious, like why did you walk away from that route, or at least not walk away, but obviously you're in coaching right now.
Yeah. And it was back when I did it, I was single and no kids, and now I'm married with 3 kids. So knowing what I know, maybe it would have been better to stay in management. Coaching lifestyle is a bit tough. But the joke I always make with the front office when they ask me that is like, you guys don't do anything. Like 3 times a year, you like you decide like 3. Okay, who are we going to draft? Who are we going to sign? And who are we going to trade? And that's all you do all year. It's like, come on. There's like nothing. I don't know. And I'm sure they make fun of me back, but it's like a joke. Of course, they work their tails off to know who to draft, know who to sign, and know who to trade. But I don't know. I found it more interesting being with the team day to day, making all the decisions that go into it. The strategy part was so interesting to me. The relationship side is so interesting to me. So yeah, I think that's why I decided to go coaching over management.
No, that's great. I can't wait to tell Bobby you said that.
I've told Bobby
okay.
times.
Okay, all right. Well, no, fair enough. And I think that obviously that hands-on approach is definitely more engaging, more challenging, and it's also a cool new experience for yourself as well. Okay, so we tease the analytics thing. We kind of have to get to it. So again, like I mentioned, if you're like an engineer, if you're an engineer of any kind, honestly, if you're just even interested in analytics, you need to go listen to the interview. Eric Khoury, NBA or Raptors head coach. The podcast is called Tell Me More Coffee with Chris Yip. So you guys dove into all the coding. You guys gave a great advertisement for the U of T engineering program.
Of course.
But seriously, I think it was such a cool discussion because you guys talked about sort of like where analytics is being used in the NBA in a very granular sense. And I guess I didn't realize this, but so the SportView cameras being installed in every arena around 2013, that really, really seemed to be a game changer at that time. Like, what was analytics before those cameras were going to put in, and what has that data set introduced to the NBA since?
Yeah, so the year I was an intern, there were 6 teams, I want to say, that had the data source.
Yeah.
The Raptors being one of them, which was super lucky that I happened to be in the city that was doing it, or else I wouldn't have had this job or anything like that. So they were one of the few teams. So you would get data from all the 6 arenas where they had film. But then soon after, they put it in all 30 arenas, which was a huge difference maker, right? But before that, most of the work was done just by play-by-play data. So it's pretty different. So the box score probably has, I don't know, about like 100 data points, right?
Sure.
10 players and 10 stats for whatever, something like that. The play-by-play amped that up a bunch. So now we're talking thousands of data points. And then SportView jumped it up to each game has almost 1 million data points, like 48 minutes a game, 25 location snapshots a second for the 10 players in the ball kind of thing. So now you're pushing like 1 million. So you can obviously do way more insights once you get the SportView data than you could the play-by-play data, which is even more than the box score data. So yeah, there's definitely jump after jump after jump. And now, I mean, when I first started, like when I left as well, you would only get the location of the player on the court at a specific time. Now they're talking about, instead of just representing the player as a dot, you get kind of like a skeletal pose. So where their shoulders, where their elbows, where their hands, which way their face, all that jazz. So the amount of data is just going through the roof. So,
right. Yeah. I mean, I think that, even for myself on the media side, right? I remember covering the game and it was like looking at Basketball Reference, right? And you go on Basketball Reference, you can see the box score data from the last like 50 years, and it's great and it's useful. You can see some of those numbers sort of aggregated into catch-all metrics like PER or like BPM or something like that. But then you go on NBA Stats Now and you can go through some of the sport view data. And I'm sure this is like a small fraction of what's actually out there, right? But you can even go through like play type. You can see what sort of players are doing on pick and roll ball handler, which I gotta say that has to be really limiting as like a data set, because like, what do you mean pick and roll ball handler? Like I don't know what happened in that pick and roll for that ball handler to be shooting 0.92 points per possession. Like that's it doesn't tell you enough, but at least that's a richer data set than versus something like Basketball Reference. And I think that's really cool. And I think that the conversation you were having was really cool, because I didn't realize that. So for most of the league, like about 20 teams in the league roughly or so, they hire an independent company to sort of workshop the data and come to their own conclusions or whatever. But the Raptors are actually one of the few shops who do it all in the house. Can you sort of explain what that difference is there and sort of why that is?
Yeah, so the league will provide, or the company that does all the data will provide you the raw coordinates for every game. So they'll literally give you that file after each game that's got the 25 times a second where everybody was an XY coordinate and then an X, Y, and Z coordinate for the ball. So they'll give you all that raw data, and then they can also provide with you, they can process the data themselves and then spit out some insights. So you kind of have the choice. You can use their insights, or you can say, look, I just want to take the raw data and I'll parse it through all the code I've written over the years. Like not me specifically, but like the team's written over the years. And we'll come up with the own insights we want. So if you do it yourself, the benefits are you can analyze whatever you want, right? Anything in the data that you want to look at, you write the code for it and out it comes. The drawbacks are, you have a team of 3 or 4 people working on it compared to a team of 20, 30, 40 engineers working on it at different companies, right? So Keith Boyarsky's always been one step ahead of the game. He's the VP of, I think, strategy and research or something like that's his title. But basically, among other things, he runs the front office, and he's done such a great job of keeping ahead of the game and thinking of what are the next steps and having a really forward-looking approach. So he said, I just want to handle the raw data myself, so I'm not limited by anything. I don't need to ask. And especially if you ask them, hey, can you start analyzing closeouts for me? Now they're analyzing closeouts for every team who they provide data for. Yeah, no advantage. So at least now he can look at whatever he wants. So we would write code for it and we would suss out whatever we want to look at.
No, that's really clever. And I think it makes sense. And I mean, in the NBA, obviously millions of dollars are spent all the time, right? But I think just like in most other sports, analytics have really come in and helped gain an advantage. And that's the whole idea, right? In sports, everyone is looking obsessively for every small edge. And I think it's really interesting that even within just the world of analytics, people are also looking for the small edges themselves. And those small margins really do add up, and I think it was really interesting to hear you talk about. So obviously a lot of the analytics get fed to the coaching staff, right? I'm sure you described like coaches want to see like what happens when you blitz the ball handler, or whatever, right? And specific play types, the outcomes, sort of like try to use that data to inform decisions in the future. But at the same time, you also mentioned that, from your experience, like it also really helps in player acquisition. And I'm curious, like, I guess to us in the media, we're looking at it like, oh, the Raptors just signed Otto Porter Jr. Let me open his Basketball Reference page. Oh, he's a career 40% three-point shooter. They clearly need three-point shooter on the team. Great signing, right? But from the front office perspective, I mean, I'm not asking to give away any secrets, nor would you. But like, how is something like Sport VU data informing player personnel decisions?
For sure. So let's use the simplest example of a player who shoots 40% from 3, like you just mentioned. Not using Otto, just a player in general. Let's say you have your cool shot models that you built over the years, right? Using the Sport View data.
Okay.
And
wait, hold on. What goes into the cool shot model? Like, are we talking about like arc of the shot? Are we talking about like the release point? Like
everything, not to be cliche. Contest level, movement, location on the floor, all that jazz. Okay. I'm telling you, there's a million data points for every game, 25 times a second. So there's everything, right? And let's say the player shoots 40%, but if you look at all his shots, the average player would have shot 45% from 3 on those shots. So he's actually not really that good a shooter. He just gets great looks versus another guy who's only shooting 37%. But if the average player took all his shots, he would only make 33% of his shots.
Right.
Well, now he's a better shooter, right? Okay. So that player acquisition stuff, that's where you can use the Sport View to really look at shot quality and how much better or worse are they than the average shooter at shot quality. It's more representative of their shooting skill than say necessarily just field goal percentage.
Eric, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck with the season. Take
Appreciate
care of
that.
the young guys, and I'm sure we'll be chatting more as the season goes on.
For sure. Thanks for having me on.
All right, you'll never walk alone.
Yeah.
All right, that was my interview with Raptors 905 head coach Eric Khoury. Did get to it because we ran out of time a little bit in terms of the show today. But Eric, a big Liverpool FC fan. We were discussing a thrilling 3-0 win over Ajax, and then we did not discuss the recent results in Premier League. Yeah, it's too heartbreaking to discuss. But in any case, yeah, it's gonna be really fun to follow 905 this season. You're gonna have a lot of names that you're probably gonna be familiar with. Like I was just taking in their media day today for 905, and you got Champagne down there, Ron Harper, Christian Koloko, Gabe Brown, who the Raptors had in for training camp, Jeff Down Jr. So there's a lot of guys. If you want to check it out, go ahead. It's a good product. Like I mentioned, it's probably the most accessible price point for families to go catch professional basketball in the NBA, in Toronto. And yeah, it's a good time. And best of luck to Coach Khoury. So for us, we're gonna take a quick break. I'm your host, William Lou. You've been listening to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. When we come back, another interview, this time with Christian Koloko of the Toronto Raptors. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, William Lou. For the second segment, I had the pleasure of catching up with Raptors rookie center Christian Koloko at practice on Sunday. We had first talked to Christian shortly after the draft, where we covered his journey from the Cameroon to the NBA. So for this one, I just really wanted to dive into his first month as a pro, which has been really eventful. So here's Christian Koloko. Okay, we're down here at Raptors practice with Raptors rookie center Christian Koloko. Well, look, we were just talking about this, so we'll start here. Halloween on Monday, obviously, so you guys had team event, and of course, the tradition at team events for the Raptors has always been to make the rookies, get up and perform. Yeah. So, Christian, what happened last night? And yeah, they made you sing twice.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice party, nice Halloween party hosted by Pascal. You just have all the staff there, or all the players, and they usually make the rookies sing and stuff. So they made me and Ron basically we sang twice because I didn't have any Halloween costume, so I had to sing two songs. But it was fun. It was fun overall. So yeah.
So what did they make you sing? Did you know the songs at least?
The first one I didn't know very well. I know it was Justin Bieber and somebody else, but I didn't know the song very well. But the second one I kind of picked it myself. I sang "I Want It That Way." Backstreet, yeah, something, yeah. That song I knew better, so I sang that one. So yeah, wow. It was fun. Yeah.
Nice. So the two of us both did karaoke last night. Okay, that's good. All right. Well, look, listen. So in the last month alone, right? You've been to Victoria, Edmonton, Montreal, Chicago, Miami, Brooklyn, Toronto, of course, Boston. You guys have played. You have played the two guys that you have wanted to see the most in the NBA, in Joel Embiid and Kevin Durant. You set a record, by the way. I don't know if you knew this, for the quickest career ejection as well. So you're in the record books.
By anybody or just a Raptor player?
No, apparently anybody.
That's crazy.
Third game, okay. So we'll cover all that, but I just want to ask you from the start, like, how's life been, man?
It's been good. It's been good, man. It's been good. Just starting my NBA career. And just being with the team, traveling, experiencing the lifestyles as an NBA player, travel, game, shoot around, practice, and a lot of quick turnaround. So you just gotta be ready, and just me continue to get more experience, get more adjusted, and getting more adjusted with my teammates as well. So it's been good. It's been good.
What's the bigger adjustment? Like, is it on court with the basketball, or is it off court with like everything else in life that comes with being like a very famous person now?
I feel like it's everything. It's everything else. It's more off court. In college we play like 2 games a week when the season actually starts. So, but we got a lot of practice here. Here we got. I feel like we got more games than actual practice, to be honest. So you gotta take care of your body. You definitely gotta take care of your body. Know what you do like after practice, like recovery, do the cold tub, the hot tub. Whatever you need, your body needs you, to recover basically. And on the court is just I don't think the court part of it is a big adjustment. There's definitely a lot of adjustment I got to make there, but I feel like there is just you just gotta take your time and learn from the vets and take everything the coaches tells you and just go out there and not trying to do too much. And I think that you will be cool on that side.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, listen. Nick has used you in every game so far, right? Which is kind of rare for a rookie, but I think he's mentioned quite a few times that he trusts you. You give a team a dimension that they don't necessarily have because everyone else on the team is a wing essentially, right? So I wanted to ask, like, what do you think you have done to earn Nick's trust this quickly in your career?
I feel like I just said, when every time he put me out there, I don't try to do too much. I just try to do whatever he want me to do. If it's play defense, being there, protecting the rim, basically talking to the guys on defense, just doing the little stuff, just doing the little stuff. And I always knew like that's something all my coaches, even in college, always told me, if you want to get on the court, you got to do the little thing that other people are not willing to do. So that's what I'm trying to do basically. And I feel like all the coaches, they kind of see everything, all the work I put in practice every day, after practice, before practice. So I feel like that's how the trust comes basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you've rewarded that trust as well. I think really the only thing people could even nitpick so far is just fouling, right? Like, you've committed a lot of fouls. Right now you're at 17 fouls in 86 minutes. So you would have fouled out of, a few times. But, when you look back on the film, like, are you noticing any patterns in terms of what those fouls are coming from?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. That's something I'm working on right now. You know, even my first year in college, that was one of the big issue I had was fouling. And last year which was my best year in college. I kind of like figured out how to get away with that, and that's how I really started playing my best basketball. And this year is the same thing. I'm a rookie as well, so some of those fouls, sometimes like, man, I know you guys gave it to me because I'm a rookie, but most of them are actual foul. I just gotta be smarter. Some of them is just like unnecessary, like grabbing and stuff like that. Because the other guys most of the time like they kind of like vets. I play against Joel. I play against Nikola Vucevic. They're really smart. They know how to get you in there. And Kyle Lowry, he got me with one of those two. And they are this smart, so you just gotta be smarter and just know how to put your hands basically.
Yeah, and it's got to be nice too because what you said right there, right? Because you're a rookie, you do get a couple extra foul calls on you. It's got to be a nice feeling that Nick has come to your defense. I don't know if you heard the post-game press conference. He's always talking about the fact that you're getting slapped with extra fouls because of that.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I feel like even in summer league, I remember one of that game in summer league. He was just sitting courtside, and I feel like I was having a bad game. I don't remember. I think it was against Chicago. I started the game. I wasn't really feeling good, and I got back in the game, and they called offensive foul on me, and which I thought wasn't an offensive foul, and I just heard Nick. He was on the sideline just screaming at the ref, screaming for like 3 straight possessions. I was like, wow. Like I'm not even playing for him right now. He's already screaming. So it just feels good to know that your coach got your back. So yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, that's good. Well, listen, I gotta ask you about the Caleb Martin incident as well. So the fight. I mean, look, you've been asked about this, but I just wanted to ask you again. What happened? Was there any lead up? Like, was there anything that happened before that play? Because we all saw like you guys were like whatever, boxing out, whatever, and grabbing each other.
No, actually, I was surprised, but I actually saw somebody posted a clip on Twitter or something after that. Like he was like, "This is probably what led to the incident." And I saw everything that happened before. I didn't even realize that during the game. But when I watched the video, I was like, "Oh, I didn't know like we had that much of like scuffles and like heat and stuff during the game." But at that moment, I don't, like I said, I didn't know him like that. So I didn't know him like that. I just boxed out, and I don't know. He just grabbed me, or I don't know what he was doing. And when I was on my way down, I was trying to grab him, basically not to
because you're falling over.
I was trying to grab him, and I just feel like he kind of like took it a bad way, like I was trying to slap him or something like that. And and I just didn't like the way he basically turned around and looked at me when I was on the ground and just stood up to me with his fist, his fist basically closed, and I got up, and what happened. But at the end of the day, I wasn't just gonna let him just look at me like that and just not do anything, not stood up for myself. But it's the past now. It's the past now. I just gotta learn from my mistake, and right now,
Well, I mean, I don't think you made any mistakes, quite personally. But Caleb said that he reached out and he apologized. So what was that like?
Yeah, he reached out to me. He texted me. He just talking. Like, he was, the game, he was playing hard, being competitive, and
Right.
And I just told him, don't worry about it, man. We good. Like we just playing basketball, and some stuff like that happen. Sometimes even in practice, man, you're not gonna fight, but some stuff like that happened. So, and we were just cool after that. It's nothing crazy.
That's good. That's good. Had you ever been ejected before in your career, like in college or in high school?
Did I get ejected? I don't feel like I got ejected, but I already got much about technical foul, but no ejected. Okay. I think that was my first ejection, to be honest. Well, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like this is one of my first ejection.
Yeah, I mean, even just speaking to you now, or even interviewing back in summer league through Zoom and stuff, it was just like you seem like a really even-tempered kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little strange. Well, I think Masai also took a $35K fine.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was linked to this event as well. So you got Nick in your corner and you got Masai in your corner.
I'm pretty sure it was linked to that too, because I remember when I got ejected, I got to the locker room and Masai came up to me. He was really mad. I was like, oh, shoot, what's going on? And I'm pretty sure that's what happened. But I mean, like I said, it's just good to have to know that the staff and the big boss, basically, they all got your back. So it just makes you more confident.
Yeah, no, that's dope. Well, listen, so we also mentioned that you've already, in like the span of a week, you have played the two guys that you looked up to a lot, right? KD, obviously, you're wearing the 35 right now. You're probably wearing the KDs on your feet right now. KD was asked about this, and he was like, this is super dope. For your own experience, playing against KD, What was that like?
Yeah, it was crazy, man. I switched on him. I feel like I switched on him twice, and he scored both times. And he scored those 2 pull-ups both times. I was like, oh, wow, he's real. He's real, man. It was really nice, just being out there and actually playing against him, man. It's crazy. It's like all of my friends from back home just text me after the game, like, man, you just play against your idol, basically. And I was like, yeah, it's crazy, just how far I came, and being here right now, And I feel like it's just going to inspire more people back home. That, like I keep saying, like anything is possible, man. Anything possible. And like I started playing basketball. I was watching the Oklahoma City Thunder and then KD, Westbrook, and James Harden, Serge Ibaka, all those guys. And now I'm playing against all those guys. So it's just amazing.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say those 2 jumpers because, like, for you, I mean, you were up. There was no defensive breakdown or nothing, and you're 7'1". Your standing reach probably like 9 feet plus. And he cashed both jumpers. Does that even does that happen to you regularly? For guys to shoot over you like that when you're contesting like that?
Most of the time when guys shoot over me like that, like
they can't see the rim.
If you make it, it's gotta be a really tough shot. But for him, it was like casual. Like it was just somebody else. Somebody was down there. He was just walking out basically. When he made that first one, I was like, yeah, he's real. This is KD is real. Like no, he's no TV thing, but he's real.
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, he's tough, man. There's nothing you can do really as a defender, as you kind of saw there. But he also got to play Joel as well, right? Unfortunately, he sat out the second game, but that first game playing against Joel, man, he's also tough.
Yeah,
he's also really tough. What'd you make of playing against Joel?
That's a big deal, man. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Yeah, I mean, playing against Joel was amazing because I remember 2017. That was my first time, leaving my country. I went to South Africa, and that was my first time actually seeing NBA players, NBA coaches, and Joel was there,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a photo of you guys.
I still remember that because I was with the Cameroonian delegation there. We had I think it was 3 boys and 2 girls from Cameroon. We went to the camp, and Joel was there. So it was really nice playing against him, And he during the game when I checked in and he looked at me, he started kind of laughing and he's like, "You can't guard me, man." And I'm like, "Come on, man, don't start that." And we both started laughing and even after the game we lost, like when we were on the way back to the locker room, and I saw him and he tapped on my shoulder and he was like, and I was like, "Man, you heard how I was playing today. You got scared. You didn't want to play." And he was like,
"Oh, okay."
Yeah, so it was amazing, man. Joel is one of the best center in the league, if not the best. So you just want to look up to those type of guys and trying to get to that level.
Yeah, it's dope. Well, I mean, it had to feel really good when you had that steal, right? He tried to post you up. You poked the steal and then took it end of the court. I think 1 dribble for the dunk. No travel on that play?
No, there was definitely no travel, man.
1 dribble from the
there was no
line,
travel.
from your own.
You got to know the rules. There was no travel.
That's a gather.
I got 1 dribble and I didn't have the ball in my hands. And I do 1 big step and then I grab the ball and shoot step. So it was definitely not a travel. Okay. But it was a nice play, man. It was a nice play. But I was just looking behind me. As soon as I got the steal, I looked behind me. I'll see if he was gonna chase me up. And I saw him and I was like, man, there's no way he catch me. Like I'm gone. Like I'm gone right now. And after the dunk, I was just like, yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
Nice. Well, I wanted to ask you just, about so far being a rookie. Obviously, you got to do a little singing, whatever, right? Probably other stuff, carrying a backpack or some other stuff. But, of the players on the team, there's a couple of vets. Who has been the most helpful in trying to get you to settle in? Who's been in your ear, giving you advice? I'm sure everybody is a little bit. Anyone standing out, though?
Man, honestly, all of them, too. We got a lot of vets. Like, they been in the league for a long time. They know a lot, Tyler be giving me a lot of advice on the court. Every time I checked out the game or I'm about to check in the game, he just give me a lot of advice. You got Fred, you got Pascal, you got Otto, all those guys, man. They just trying to, make my adjustment easier, and they just give me a little bit of advice, each of them on and off the court. So even Chris, he's basically like a vet now too, so he's been in the league for a couple of years, and all those guys, they be really helpful. So I can't really say one of them in particular, but all of them, they're trying to help me for sure.
Yeah, it's nice, man, because everyone's kind of looking after you and stuff. That's too. I know the 905 season starting up as well. Nick kind of mentioned a little bit that, sometimes there'll be opportunities for you to go play 905, play 35 minutes, all that kind of stuff. But he's also using a lot in the rotation. What has he said anything specific to you about plans or maybe going down or anything like that, or not?
Man, we haven't talked about it. I haven't talked to no coaches about playing 905 yet, but I saw that. I saw that too. So, I mean, I don't know. They know what's best for me. So whatever they tell me to do, I'm gonna do it. So. Yeah, right now, like I said, I just want to do whatever the coaches want me to do to help the team. So if they want me to go to a 9 to 5 to get more experience, man, I'm gonna do it. So it's not for me right now, but I haven't talked to them about it. So right now the season starts, so I feel like they got bigger things to worry about right now than just me sending me to the 9 to 5. But when the 9 to 5 season gonna start, we're gonna see. But right now, I have no idea.
Fair enough. All right, last question. It's a bit of a weird one, but what's been the weirdest part of being famous so far?
The weirdest part of being famous. I mean, there's no weird part about it. It's just, when you're walking in the street, like people you just hear people, like some people are kind of scared, so you just hear them, is that Christian Koloko? Like just talking to themselves or talking to their friend, and you just heard it and you act like it wasn't you, stuff like that. But
You're like, no, it's another 7
yeah,
foot.
you just turn around and give them the look that no, it's not him. Nah. So, but I don't think there's anything weird about it. It's just, you just gotta enjoy it.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, Christian. Great start to the season so far, and yeah, best of luck. Keep doing your thing.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
All right, that was my interview with Raptors rookie Christian Koloko at practice on Sunday. So before we go, turn attention to the game tonight. The Raptors taking on the Atlanta Hawks, and this is the Between the Lines segment brought to you by Bet Rivers. It's a whole new game. So today's line, Raptors -4. The over-under here is 223. To be honest, it's going to be a little bit hard to specifically figure out what to do on this one, just because obviously Fred is being listed as questionable with the back issue. It wouldn't have surprised me if he did have a back issue against the Sixers as well, because he was kind of moving in a very labored way. I know a lot has been made about the defense. Obviously, when you give up 44 to Tyrese Maxey, it's going to bring up some conversations. But I think in general, you do need Fred's defense in this specific matchup against Atlanta. Trey is obviously very tough. DeJounte Murray is also quite tough. Obviously, the two of them combined together, and that dual backcourt has worked nicely for them. They're scoring like 50 points a game, basically, the two of them. So, I mean, at the same time, the Atlanta it's a weird team so far. So they haven't really played like the most quality of opposition up until recently, where they lost against Milwaukee Bucks. But they played Houston, Orlando, Charlotte, Detroit, and Detroit. Right out of the gate. Those are not strong teams. So even though they're at a 4-2 record, I still don't fully know what to make of them. It's a little strange seeing the Hawks being 30th in three-point attempt rate. I think that probably will go up tonight as the Raptors look to trap Trae Young, which is usually what they do. So, if Fred's in, I think I'm pretty comfortable with Raptors -4.5 or -4. But I don't know. This is one of those ones where you have to see closer to tip off. Yeah, I mean, the game total is pretty good. I think I'll probably take the over on that one. But that was Between the Lines, brought to you by Bet Rivers. It's a whole new game, and tomorrow for us, we will have a whole new show. Alex may or may not be here, but we will definitely cover the Raptors Hawks result, and yeah, look ahead. I mean, I think our goal with the show is always to bring you the most insight and the most access, and I hope you enjoyed the two interviews today. So that does it for us today. I'm your host, Wolu. You've been listening to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Make sure you find the Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, and please rate and review. Reminder, we're streaming live on Sportsnet's YouTube channel and airing live on Sportsnet 360, Monday to Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. Thanks again to Eric Khoury and Christian Koloko. Thanks to our board producer, Derek Brandale, and Jennifer Rolnick for helping us with the YouTube stream. And I will be back tomorrow.